And let's start with Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk is now, according to his tweet he put out a couple of days ago, this is the tweet: back to spending 24/7 at work and sleeping in conference server factory rooms. I must be super focused on XAI and Tesla, plus Starship launch next week, as we have critical technologies rolling out. As evidenced by the X uptime issues this week, I'm not sure what those are, major operational improvements need to be made. The failover redundancy should have worked, but did not. So Elon Musk now is 100%, seems to be 100% focused on business, 100% focused on his companies. Indeed, in a video interview that he did a few days earlier, he was asked about his political involvement, and Elon Musk said, look, I'm not giving money anymore to politicians, unless I think that I really need to, but I don't think I need to at this point. He looks very depressed. I mean, the video of Elon is kind of sad watching him because he looks pretty defeated and depressed. And I think, look, did I predict this? I think I predicted this. I think I said that Elon would not last more than a few months. And what has it been? I can't do the math right now, but it's like 3-4 months and that's it, right? Doge has been a complete and utter failure. It didn't live up to his expectations. He didn't get, at the end of the day, the kind of support that he wanted. Now, I think he approached the whole project wrong. And I don't think he understands how government functions, and therefore, approached the whole project wrong. But the reality is that nobody was going to let him cut $2 trillion. Nobody was even going to let him cut $1 trillion. For that matter, nobody's going to let him cut anything. Maybe reshuffle the chairs on the Titanic, but fundamentally, you can't cut government spending at the executive level. You have to cut government spending through legislation. There's not that much fraud and waste, depending on how you define waste. Most of it is waste, but if you define waste the way they define it, in government, there just isn't. It's mostly just bad policy. It's mostly just stuff the government shouldn't be spending money on. But that's a whole different issue than cutting fraud and waste, which, again, there's not that much of, and I think he discovered that. And the rest, which should be cut, is beholden to multiple levels of pressure groups. Pressure groups that affect the politicians, that affect the bureaucrats. And it's very, very difficult to come from the outside, not knowing politics, not understanding the dynamic of political decision-making, not understanding the dynamic of pressure groups, and just say, oh, cut this, cut that. And he got blowback. He got massive pushback from the bureaucracy, from the politicians. These politicians, again, are beholden to pressure groups. Nobody was going to let him touch those. And then, of course, he couldn't touch Social Security. He couldn't touch Medicare. And then if you really want to cut spending, and if you really want to deregulate, if you really want to do the hard work, it has to be through legislation. It has to be through Congress. And that is a different skill set. It's you don't do it like you do a startup. You actually have to go to the Hill. You have to write legislation, and you have to figure out what legislation to write, and you have to do it systematically. And sadly, you probably couldn't get much done there either, unless you could create the right kind of pressure groups for that. But it's not clear that there are any. Just look at, the Big Beautiful Bill. The Big Beautiful Bill is an unmitigated disaster coming out of the House. The Senate, they know that. And they're gonna try to do it differently, but then it's not clear it gets supports in the House. The whole thing, it's not clear what exactly is going to pass, but this is for sure. And I told you this before Trump was elected. I told you this after he was elected. I've been telling you this all along. At the end of Trump's term, government will be bigger, indeed, significantly bigger than when Trump took office. There was never any chance that there would be significant cuts significant cuts to government spending. Now, Ian is asking, isn't the final number for Doge savings something like 20 to 30 billion? Not if Congress passes this budget. Maybe all that's happened is 20, 30 billion have been cut in some programs, but given how much Congress is spending, the 20, 30 billion will be spent somewhere else. So net to government spending, nothing has been cut. Indeed, once this budget is passed by the House and the Senate, or some version of this budget is passed by the House and Senate, government spending will be dramatically higher than it is today. Dramatically. Just like it was in the first Trump administration. Deficits are going through the roof. By conservative estimates, the bill coming out of the House of Representatives would increase deficit by $3 trillion. But it's much more likely, because they're not taking into account increased interest rates, interest on the debt, all of that. It's likely that the net result is somewhere closer to 5 to 6 or maybe even $7 trillion increase in spending. Now, the Senate claims they're going to cut more. I'll believe it when I see it. But let's say if they do, okay, but whatever happens, we are not talking about shrinking government spending. And when they say we're going to cut this, we're going to save this, what they mean is, right now, and this is they do every time, right? Government is projected to spend this amount, X, X plus 1, X plus 2, X plus 3, X plus 4. When they say we're cutting, is they're cutting the expectation. So instead of X plus 1, we're going to spend X plus 0.9. Instead of X plus 2, we're going to spend 1.8 or whatever the numbers are, right? So they shrink the rate of growth. And Republicans are very good at pointing this out when the Democrats claim that they are shrinking government spending and all they're doing is shrinking the rate of growth. But Republicans do exactly the same thing. Government spending, in terms of dollars, never goes down. Never goes down, as far as I can tell. I can't remember a year it went down. And think about a household budget. Think about, oh, we need to tighten our belts, guys. We can't spend as much next year as we do this year. And everybody says, okay, we expected to spend 10% more next year, so we'll only spend 5% more instead. That means we cut 5%. And you're going, no, you don't understand. We have to literally spend less next year. That's not relative to expectations, but relative to reality, relative to what we spent this year. We have to cut because maybe our income has gone down, or maybe, one expense has gone up disproportionately and we have to cut everywhere else. But not in government. Not in government. And notice that this bill doesn't really cut any programs, doesn't get rid of any programs, which is what Doge promised us. So even if Doge did all its work, unless it gets legislated, unless it actually gets into, by Congress, which is responsible for spending, it's meaningless what Doge did. And again, I told you that from the beginning, that the budget is set by Congress, not by Doge, not by the executive. And we're left with a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican president who will, over the next 4 years, spend dollar-wise more money than any president ever. I mean, maybe Biden spent more, maybe Trump first term spent more because of COVID, but I think even taking that into account, Trump will spend more this time. And we have to hold that you can't grow the deficit forever. You can't grow government debt forever. There has to be, you have to pay the consequences ultimately. At some point, somewhere, you will pay consequences. Republicans seem to basically not care. Basically not care. So Elon, I'm glad he's back in business. I think his value added is much greater in business. Remember too that Elon Musk spent, tens of millions of dollars in that campaign in Wisconsin to try to get a conservative judge elected, and he lost. I think one of the things he's realizing is that money doesn't actually win elections. It's not about how much you spend. Maybe it's something deeper. Maybe you have to change the culture. Maybe it's about philosophy and ideas. Maybe I should go talk to Elon and see if he'll fund the Yaron book show. I don't know, maybe. Anyway, I think he's going to retreat from politics for a while. I think he's learned a lesson. We'll see what that lesson exactly is, but I think he's learned a lesson. And I think he's going to be much more reluctant to get involved in politics. And I hope he's realized that Trump is not the person he thought he was.